Shikamazu Theater. This classical Japanese dance drama theater is commonly known as Kabuki and directly translates into the art of song and dance. The word Kabuki was adopted into English in the late 19th century during a flood of Western interests in Japanese culture. Kabuki theater is known for the stylization of its drama and the elaborate makeup worn by some of its performers. A rich art form in showmanship, Kabuki involves eye-catching makeup, outlandish wigs, elaborated dance costumes, and arguably the most important thing, the exaggerated movements by performers. The highly stylized movements functions to convey meaning to the audience. This is important because Kabuki typically uses an old-fashioned form of Japanese language, which is difficult for most Japanese people to understand fully. This Japanese art style has its roots in the Edo period as entertainment for the common people. Before the Tokugawa era, theater had been an entertainment mostly for the aristocrats who enjoyed a form of entertainment called no. However, things changed after Tokugawa later took control and unified the country. The events that took place encouraged economical, political, and social changes. The economy of Japan boomed, and for once the common people had money to spend on entertainment. Kabuki theater is recognized as one of Japan's three major classical theaters, along with Noa and Bunraku. Kabuki theater became more widespread in English-speaking countries after World War II, after Kabuki theater companies decided to tour there. Now, let's go back through time, where it all began with female Kabuki. Originating in the 17th century, Izio no Okumi, possibly a shrine maiden of Izio Tadayashi, began performing a new style of dance drama in the dry riverbeds of Kyoto. Kabuki in the 17th century was very different from what it is today and was mostly comprised of large orchestrated dances performed by women. Most of these women were prostitutes off stage, and finally the government banned women from the stage in an effort to protect public morals. This ban on women, though, was often seen as a good move, for it compelled the importance of skill over beauty and put more stress into drama than dance, this putting Kabuki onto a path for more dramatical plays later on. Moving on to the second part, we arrive at the transition to Yari Kabuki. The old male Kabuki, known as Yari Kabuki, was established during these times as women were banned from doing any theater work. Cross-dressing males, known as onagatu, were commonly used during this time. Younger men were favorited for women's roles in Kabuki due to their less masculine appearance and higher-pitched voices compared to adult males. These young male actors were also available for prostitution. Audience frequently became rowdy and brawls occasionally broke out, sometimes over the favor for a particularly handsome young actor. This leading the government to place a ban first on onagata and then on watashu roles. Now we enter the Golden Age. Many of the structures that made up Kabuki theater were formalized during this period, such as the style and conventional character types. The puppet theater that later became known as bukaku was closely associated with Kabuki, and they influenced each other's development over time. One of the first professional Kabuki playwrights, Shikamazu Monzaemon, produced several influential works. The piece that is acknowledged as his most significant is Sonjaki Shinzu. This was originally written for Bunraku. Like many other Bunraku, it was eventually adapted into a Kabuki. Similarly, plays reportedly caused many real-life copycat suicides, to the point that the government banned shiju mono. And now, arriving at our last part of our little history story, Saruwaka-cho Kabuki. Within the 1840s, many fires struck Edo. Also frequently affected were Kabuki theaters due to the fact they were traditionally made out of wood. When the area of the house Nakamuza was decimated in 1841 by a fire, the shogun refused to rebuild the theater. Additionally, the shogun took advantage of the fire in 1842 to force the three main Kabuki theaters, Nakamuza, Ishimuza, and Kawaza, out of the city and into Eizakuazu, then furthermore a northern suburb of Edo. Many actors, stagehands, and others associated that worked within these theaters migrated, but the result of the new location reduced audience. These factors, along with the restriction placed on by the government, pushed most of Kabuki theater underground, making performances move around the place to avoid authority.
So why did you choose Kabuki theatre?
I chose Kabuki theatre because of nostalgic reasons. As a child, I traveled from place to place, seeing what different cultures had, and watching a traditional Kabuki play was one of them. Also, if I'm going to elaborate on my previous statement, as a child, when I watched a Kabuki play, if any of you have actually seen one, they're very different to normal plays from the Western world. The costumes that were designed, the music that was used was incredibly different. Not your soothing orchestra type music. It's very intense, sharp, dramatic. Also the mask, not like any traditional mask you wear, it's all painted on. So any of the micro expression you look for a face, like dimples or freckles, eyebrows, any of those micro expression or any impurity you look for on a face are just all gone. So it's in the uncanny valley, as I say. So it's very creepy and different for a child to watch. So when this opportunity arose to research a part of the history of theatre, I decided why not, and see what made it and why it was like that to begin with. Kabuki costumes uses many different types of masks and big wigs to match the character they are portraying. With the process of applying makeup, this allows the actor to get to know the character he is playing. First, they apply oil and wax onto the face to help the rest of the makeup to stick to his skin. Then a thick coat of white makeup is put on to cover the whole face. The white face creates an intense look on stage, and many historians believe the white face was more easily seen in the centuries before stages were lit with electricity. Different shades of white are used depending on the age, class, and gender of the character. On this white face, red and black lines are used to outline the eyes and mouth, which is also shaped differently for male and female characters. For supernatural heroes or villains, which appear frequently in Kabuki theatre, there's a special style of makeup called kumodari. This is made up of dramatic lines and shape applied in different colors, each representing different qualities. The most commonly used color is dark red, which represents anger, passion, and cruelty, and dark blue, which represents unhappiness or depression. Other common colors were pink, representing youth and cheerfulness, light blue or green, representing tranquillo, purple for nobility, brown for selfishness, and black for fear. Kabuki is mainly carried out by a family of actors, but the National Theatre Association in Tokyo has a school that's been training new and younger actors outside of this framework. The majority of Kabuki performances still fundamentally relies on the Edo period, including the art style, the music, stage performance, and costumes. But new generations are trying to update Kabuki with more modern stories, stage performances, and costume. The average Kabuki performance length is roughly 5 hours. This is including intermissions. The larger theatre companies, such as the National Theatre in Tokyo, provides earphone guide in English for tourists.
So to conclude the assignment, what did you learn?
Well, I learned the fact that Kabuki theatre has a very rich and deep history to it, where every 50 odd years when the new movement arrived, due to the fact the previous one was banned by government, the fact that the society at the time, the common people, learned to adapt and change and create a new form of Kabuki theatre every single era. Also the fact that after 1868, Kabuki theatre just stayed the same until now. It's still stuck in that golden era of Kabuki theatre. I think the reason is that that was the best period. It was the boom of Kabuki theatre, and people don't want that to change. They like the traditional roots of a really great, interesting form of theatre, where the music, the costume, the mask, the stage design are all very different to Western forms of theatre. And this concludes our little journey through the history of theatre. Hope you've learned something about Kabuki theatre. I know I have. Or maybe you've known all of this along and just had to watch someone's boring documentary. I know how that feels. So until next time, go away.